All right, we are live, AFWO family. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Drea. As usual, um, here at Air Force Women Outreach, we do AFWO Speaks, which is pretty much about embracing the human side. We all have military backgrounds, and for the most part, and a lot of the people that I bring on here, I bring for their expertise, I bring for discussion, I bring for a lot of the perspective and things that sometimes people don't like to talk about, which is mental health and the perceptions and potential suicide ideations, different things. But ultimately, we at the end of the day, when we take this uniform off, we will be human underneath. So that is the intent of this podcast. This is episode 18. And as usual, Air Force Women Outreach at gmail.com is the email on the screen that you can reach out to us. You can, any issues that you bring, it will be anonymous. We'll bring it to the page and we will rally around each other as we always do. If you don't care for that option, you can always go to the top of the Facebook group page and click on the administrators and go ahead and click message. I'm one of the administrators, and then we also have various administrators that you can reach out to. So without further ado, it's a Wednesday, okay? So Wednesday, middle of the week, got to get our energy up, and we have a special guest today, Mr. Llama Lounge himself, Mr. Llama Leadership. That's my name for him, but we're going to bring Joe on here right into the stream. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Drea?
Hey, you know what? I'm feeling good. I really enjoyed doing this podcast interview. I still don't even figured out the platform for this thing. But either way, I'm very excited that you came on to talk. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's a blessing. Thank you for this opportunity. I want to shout out to Red for connecting us, and I just feel humbled that you found some value in me coming on the show. So hopefully I meet those expectations.
Okay. No, I think it'll be straight, and a lot of people already know of the Llama Lounge and the Llama Leadership Squad, so nothing too unfamiliar. Also, shout out to Red. He has definitely been helping me behind the scenes. And really just providing a lot of mentorship. I appreciate him. Yeah. So I want you to give us some background on yourself, but before I do that, I like to tell people how I kind of encounter the guests that I deal with. So, but I will tell you the first experience, the encounter I had with you was, just seeing in my Facebook feed about you doing kind of these messages. Like you would do these short little, I won't want to say it was COVID, but it was just kind of these nice little motivational quotes and things like that. And so, you just in your regular tan shirt, just chilling, and you had these little messages. And then it moved into a point where it was like quarantine or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you had this list of things, and you were like, okay, day number 1, day number 2, day number 3, quarantine type stuff. And I thought that was pretty motivating. So before we get into your background, my first question is, why, what made yourself feel like you were vulnerable enough to kind of expose yourself, to put yourself out there?
Yeah. So, with the messages, I think actually vulnerable was the best word, right? What you just used there was because a lot of people might have interpreted the reasoning behind me sharing those messages in different ways. But for me, it was two things. One, I felt like there was some messages to share, right? And I think the first one really was about how are you going to be at the end of this COVID, right? Whatever it looks like, whenever that is, are you going to be the same, or are you going to use this opportunity to get better? Or hopefully not, but are you going to be worse, right? And then this is a complete choice for us. So I felt like that was an important message to share. But really, the other thing was I wasn't comfortable doing it. It wasn't something I was comfortable doing. All right. Getting on and then people, I've spoken in front of a lot of people. I've done auditoriums. I've done all kinds of stuff. But it doesn't matter if you're comfortable doing one, whether it's one vehicle, one platform. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to another one. And I hate hearing my own voice. You know what I mean? I hate seeing my own videos and all that stuff. So I thought of it as an opportunity to get over that, right? Because during that time, I remember the people that were the most successful were the ones that were the most adaptable, the ones that were able to pivot. Now, when I say people in general, whether those are businesses, whether those are just people responding to situations at work. But I also, I consider myself a teacher, and I heard a lot of teachers saying that, no, I only teach in a classroom with people. And I'm like, well, are you a teacher, or are you only a teacher that teaches in a classroom with people, right? So to me, if I consider myself a teacher and I feel like that's my calling over anything else in the uniform, I feel like teaching is my calling. I need to be able to find different platforms to be able to adapt to those and set an example. So those were really what kind of drove me to start doing those messages. Now, the quarantine messages, when it came down to the list, I had goals that I needed to set to make. I went into the quarantine. I went to multiple quarantines last year, and I went in with the mindset that I was going to make this time value added and not just sit there and not just, Netflix and chill the whole time, right? Like just binge watching or whatever. I wanted to make it value added time, and that was the goal I did before. And I prepped for that. I knew I was going into quarantine, so I got the books I wanted to read. I got workout bands. Shout out to Sergio Melendez. That was a great recommendation. Take some workout bands, and all that stuff. And I got prepped, and then I went in, and then I wrote goals. And then I realized, hey, I should share these to be more accountable. You know what I mean? Like then I feel like I'll more likely do it. And the first day I kind of wrote what the goals were, and then I wrote what I actually did that day. And suddenly I just realized, hey, some people found that inspirational. They were messaging me saying, man, this is awesome. So then I was like, oh, now I got to do it every day. And my intent was to do it like maybe one day.
Yeah, they hold you accountable.
Right. Because then it's like, oh, am I slipping? Like if I don't do the second day, they're going to think I didn't do anything. You know what I mean? So I felt like I needed to keep sharing that, to show people that there is an opportunity for growth there in anything, right? To reframe that. And I think reframing is an important thing that I think we'll talk about a little bit more as we get into the interview. But I think that's real important. So that was really the big motivation behind those actions.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I definitely was just like, man, this dude he either, the internet is vicious. So, they may have been holding your feet to the fire. Like,
right.
You do one, like it's workout, you do one workout and you fall off versus no, you have 14 days, Joe.
Right.
You have to do every day. You give us a little bit and then you got to keep moving. So, shout out to you, man. You kind of kept yourself, like self-motivation, I think is pretty hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I tell you that's true. I had a discussion and a friendly debate with a friend who was telling me that running a full marathon in a race is more difficult than running a full marathon by yourself. Now I get his point, because when you're competing to win, which by the way, I'm not doing that. Right? He was competing to win. You're going to push yourself real hard. But I think in general, the difference when you're running by yourself versus when you're motivated by other people, you got stuff going on. You got rest stations where people are feeding you and stuff. I think that, in my personal opinion, and I don't want to start an argument out here.
Oh, man, right in the comments.
Doing it on your own is a little bit more difficult, because you have nobody to hold yourself accountable but yourself. So and I found that to be a mental toughness exercise.
Interesting. Yeah. I can dig that. So before we get into the background, just anybody and everybody that's watching, if you got any comments, if you got any questions for Joe, he is willing to be on the hot seat today. So no question is too hard. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, by all means, please, comment, tell us where you're from, or tell us where you're watching. And also, if we have any questions, we'll read them live on the air. So tell the people, who are you? Like, what's your background?
All right. So Joe Bogdan, I'm currently the squadron superintendent of the 60th Civil Engineer Squadron at Travis Air Force Base in Northern California. Fortunate to be in this position because this is a squadron that I consider one of the two squadrons that I feel grew me as an NCO and a senior NCO. So I'm real excited to be the superintendent of this squadron. I'll soon be PCSing to the other squadron that I feel grew me as a senior NCO, and that's OSAN 51st Civil Engineer Squadron. I'll be moving there this summer for my third tour out there, and I'm looking forward to that. Real excited. Been in the Air Force 20 years, serving the greatest Air Force known to man. I just hit my 20 years in February while I was on my deployment, which I just recently returned from. Amazing deployment. Had 25 different AFSEs in a very diverse and unique squadron. Got to learn a lot out there. And it was fantastic out in Al-Assad, Iraq. Great times out there, great experiences. And there's a lot of value that what we're doing, plus a value to what I can bring back from that deployment for the learning experiences. So great times out there. I was fortunate enough to do my final re-enlistment to go
Wow.
indefinite in a combat zone. So I was real excited about that.
Bittersweet.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, shout out to the civil engineers. Okay. I'm just saying, it seemed like there's a trend here. Like you go from this civil engineer to that
Yeah.
civil engineer. So, very, very, very awesome. And then you're going to OSAN for the third time.
Yeah, third time, and something special about that, besides a couple things special about that is one, I'll be reunited with my significant other. She's out there stationed there right now.
All right now.
Really, really excited about that. And the other thing is I'll literally be returning to what I consider my hood because I was born in Songtan. I was born right
Word.
outside of Osan. So first
Wow.
generation immigrant, moved over to the States when I was just an infant. I don't remember a lot from when I was growing up there as a baby, but just it's like second home to me. So I'm excited to
Right.
get up there. And
Okay.
yeah, moved to
Okay.
the States when I was young. We lived on the East Coast, lived on the West Coast. Call Seattle home, as you can tell. Bring back the songs,
Yeah.
right?
Start the movement.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
So,
awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. Well, man, amazing, 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 amazing. So let's actually transition. So I called you Mr. Llama Lounge in the beginning.
Yeah.
Some people may not know, some people may know, but what drove you to do this, the Llama Lounge?
So the history behind it is the Llama Lounge is a podcast. The Llama Leadership is a team that I'm fortunate enough to be a part of. It's a team in a business and just four friends that are real tight. Jose Ramon, Frank Zamorano, and Scott Green and we've been friends for about probably more than 10 years now. We started at Travis Air Force Base. We were all into development and resilience. We loved teaching it. We loved getting certifications in it. We loved helping growing others and improving ourselves. So that was our passion. We were tight the whole time. The word a lot. I get this question all the time. Why llama? So we were all at supporting an EFMP event. It was an autism walk, and there was a llama there, and no petting zoo, just a llama.
Okay.
Somebody looked over at the llama. One of us said, "Why is there a llama here?" And they credit me with saying it. I said, "Well, why wouldn't there be a llama here?" And it just stuck. That became our mascot. Llamas are awesome. We love them, and it just became our mascot. And we didn't really do much with it. We just stayed close. And then in 2018, I was running on a treadmill in Spangdahlem, and I was listening to Tim Ferriss' Tribe of Mentors. And all he does is interview people that are doing extraordinary things. And I thought, man, we know a bunch of people that are doing extraordinary things. So we started off with a blog. I made a terrible website that wasn't very good, but it worked. It worked. It took me a whole week to make that terrible website, but it worked. We started with blog sites, and I'm also a sports fan, and I'm a big fan of the Players Tribune, which their motto is 4 players by players, articles written by them. So I was like 4 leaders by leaders.
All right now.
That's what we did. And we did that for about 2 years. We wanted to do a podcast, and we launched it in 2020, and we just hit episode 102.
Wow.
So real exciting. Episode 102 had Corey Etchberger talking about his dad, Medal of Honor recipient, Chief
Super
Master
dope. Super dope. Super dope. Man. I'm sitting here at episode 18, like
man, we all started though. We all started. Did you know, Drea, that most like 90 something, like 97%, I'm just making up a number, it's real high, don't even make it past episode 10. So you're already in the top 2-3 percentile.
Man, I'm already rising to the top. But after 102, I was like, man, the stress that started building. But man, that is so fantastic that y'all are doing 102 episodes. So congratulations to the Llama gang, the Llama Leadership.
Yeah.
So has it done what you wanted it to do? Like did y'all have a mission statement and you met that mission, or is it doing what y'all think it should do?
I think it's there, but it's a work in progress, and it always will be. Our goal we had a couple. One of them was we just want to talk to some awesome people and learn ourselves and stay inspired, which that's definitely happening because we've had guests ranging from FBI behavioral analysts to some of the command chiefs and chiefs around the Air Force. I had some staff and tech sergeants on there talking about how difficult it is to be transition to being a supervisor. Just great discussions. So that was a big thing. We wanted to learn it. We wanted to get the message out there. But this is the other thing that a big focus for me and the team is, Dre, we're not always fortunate enough to have great leadership. It's just a fact of life. It's not Air Force. That's fact of life. You may be working. There's chances are you're going to work for somebody who isn't inspiring, right? At some point in your life, and maybe they're not really invested in you, right? And at some point, sometimes we feel entitled to that. Well, I don't necessarily agree that we're entitled to it, but it's something that's really awesome, right? That you want, that we all thrive. We want, right? We seek.
Absolutely.
So because of that, when we're doing this podcast, something that's always going on the back of my head is what gaps can we fill out there? Maybe we can't influence everybody, but if somebody listens to the podcast, maybe they get a little bit of inspiration. They get some perspectives that they wouldn't normally get because maybe the leadership chain that they're in isn't investing in them the way maybe they wish they would. So that's a big goal of mine. I wish that I had a podcast like the Llama Lounge when I was a staff sergeant. So I try to live to that and try to provide that, and the feedback we get is great. I actually had one of my best friends tell me, he's in the civilian community. He says he listens to a lot of entertaining podcasts, but whenever he's having a difficulty at work managing, leading people, he listens to the Llama Lounge. So
that's you know what? It hits you in the feels.
Yeah.
No, but that's humbling because it's just one of those things where and I think somebody told me this or whatever that whether you get one viewer or whether you get 100, the influence is there. It doesn't. We're not doing this for numbers. We're doing this just for spirit of influence. If we can reach a certain level of people, then that's fine, and if we hear no feedback about it whatsoever, it's cool because we're doing it for the right reasons.
Right. Yeah. I have a good friend, VP. He's a veteran, a retired Air Force comm guy. And he says, he calls them vanity metrics. Don't focus on the vanity metrics. We ain't worried about those.
Word. And you know what? And I learn something every time I do that. So trust me, that's going right here. Vanity metrics. Thank you.
There you
Thank
go.
you, VP.
Yeah.
So let's transition to resilience. Okay. And I wanted to ask you this. Well, actually, lately I've been asking a lot of my guests this because, it's the ebbs and flows of the words of the day or the words of that current influx, right? And resilience has been one that kind of has been a constant use. But I do also think that the meaning behind it may need to be relooked or at least something to add to it, because it's like going into a situation, being able to just jump in and come right back out and recover. But I just find that there's just something about it that may be missing. And I'm just wondering, do you think that there's something missing from resilience and kind of the way it's portrayed?
Yeah, I think that a common, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but a common definition is that, it's bouncing back from adversity, right? And sometimes people will take that and that means it's a thing to use when reactively, right? A resilient skills. I think at the heart of resilience is self-mastery, right? And there's a lot of pieces of that, but at the heart of self-mastery to me is discernment and reframing. And I think that what happens is that we don't focus enough. We do a little bit on the reframing, how you think is, what you think about something is going to drive your behaviors, your reactions, and your emotions, which is very much true. But we don't spend enough time talking about discernment. And discernment means a lot of things, but in my opinion, we don't talk about, discerning between what you can't control and what you can't control. Understanding that even what you can't control might be very important to you, but discerning between the two, that you can't control everything. So focus on what you can. And you've probably heard a lot of people say, man, this isn't fair. They get stuck on this fair thing, right? And something that I remember hearing Ryan Holiday say is, when you it might have been Tim Ferriss, one of the two on the podcast episode. They said when you constantly focus on things being unfair, you're jumping into the passenger seat of a car and letting somebody else take you for a ride. Right. And it really is, because it's not that life isn't fair. It's just life is life. That's what Scott Green would say all the time, is life is life.
Yeah.
And discerning is important. It's something that I think is a skill that we can continuously hone. Another thing that we need to discern between is who's the people in our life that are the most important, who's the ones we can trust with everything, who's the ones that are just there during this season in our life, this mission that we happen to be on. Right. Because when we have a hard time discerning between those, that's when our expectations aren't met and we get disappointed. Right. So if I start trusting somebody, and TD Jakes has a great video on it on YouTube, but he talks about confidants. Confidants are people that you can trust. You can trust with everything. And the constituents happen to be people that we're on the same mission. But once our mission's over, we may not be tight anymore. Right. And then there's comrades, and that's a little bit different than constituents, because those are people only on your side because you got the same enemy. Right. Right. But the problem is when you accidentally assume that a constituent is a confidant. Right. And you start mislabeling people, and then they don't meet your expectations. And then now you're in suffering mode. Right. And you got to deal with it. And I think that for us to be able to focus and really hone those skills of discernment and being able to reframe situations, that's what I think resilience is about, is being more proactive, learning about those skills. That way, when it comes, and also having grace with yourself when you realize you're still going to mess up. Right. Right. Because we all will. We all will. Right?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's not striving for perfection either.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of where we go wrong. You know what I'm saying? Or where we kind of turn off of that path, is when it's like we're trying to meet a certain we have an expectation already that's so high that we really don't give ourselves a chance to attain it or take the time to attain it.
Right.
So discernment, yes, that is, and I was like, man, I have not heard that. So that is good stuff. And of course, T. Jakes, I really like him too.
Yeah.
So speaking on that piece, so of course this, Air Force Wingman Outreach is centered around mental health and different things like that. So, do you have experiences that you'd be willing to share with us, whether it's positive or negative? It can be about you, or it can, whatever you feel comfortable.
Yeah. So I'll tell you that I think that something that I feel that is important for me to share, being blessed with the platform that I have, and also in the position of leadership, is telling people that, hey, I get depressed too. You know what I mean? Like, it happens, right? I think it's very part of the human experience to have your ups and downs. And I have, my thoughts on why. And there's a lot of contributing factors that happen to that. And I have had long bouts of it. And it always came at the most inopportune time, right? At times where I did not think it was going to come up. Like after I attained the rank of Chief Master Sergeant, you would think I'd be extremely happy. But attaining that rank and then also going through personal issues at the same time, it made it very difficult for me. And then I was out of shape because I was overworking. And the thing about that time for me is it gave me a lot of perspectives. It's almost like I had to go down through the valley to figure out some things about myself. Right. And I do a lot of self-reflection. So that's an experience for me. And the way I was able to pull myself out of it was leaning on some confidants, and also really exercising and pouring into others, right? Like continuously doing some of those things, that working out, getting myself healthy, focusing on things I could control in that situation. I think that I really love about the Air Force mental health program, as well as just support providers in general when it comes to this, is in my personal opinion, a lot of people that are in those helping agencies, they understand, because they understand that they go through the struggle too. So they're able to empathize, right? They're able to empathize with situations. And I remember one, I had he's like a brother to me, and he had a bit of a breakdown.
Yeah.
And he would go see a provider, and the provider would give him great advice. And then he'd come talk to me, because, you're always skeptical a little bit, and like, this is what, my provider told me, what do you think? And a lot of times I was echoing the same stuff, not really knowing everything in the context. And then he asked me to come with him.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, all right. So,
Okay.
I came with him to one of his appointments. It was
Mm,
a little bit awkward because I don't think
sure.
that's very normal, but
Sure.
I was like, if this is what you need, I'll sit in here with you.
Super
And
dope.
I really, really appreciated how that provider supported him,
Mm,
right? And very professional. And then we together as a family were able to help, right, him find the answers that he needed to kind of come to himself. And right now he's doing fantastic.
mm,
He's
mm.
doing fantastic. He's in the top 3% of the enlisted force, doing amazing things. So those are some of my experiences.
Sure.
You know.
And how has that affected you? I mean, you found yourself where you were even at the top of the enlisted tier and
Mhm.
still like having, finding yourself in that dark places. And that's why to me, that's just saying that nobody is immune from this stuff.
No,
The uniform is not this shield that protects you from everything, right?
yeah.
You
Hmm.
know. So I mean, so what has that taught you about yourself?
One thing I would say is no matter how resilient you think you are, I think it humbled me, right? It
Mm,
humbled me for sure. And then also it kind of going through it myself and understanding, doing some deep self work. And I think a lot of that happened to, I happened to be armed with a lot of that because of some of the certifications experience that I had. You know, it it helped me kind of validate some things, right? And also, like, I was working through my own skill sets that I gained. It didn't make it easy, right? But I was
mhm,
able to work through those. So I think it helped me a lot, and it also makes me appreciate the mountaintops a little bit more,
mm, mm,
right? And there's I think it's a Tibetan quote that talks about, growth doesn't happen at the mountaintops. It typically happens in the valleys, right?
Okay.
Right, the water drains down and gets down into it, and that's where the growth occurs. And it really just kind of gave me those perspectives, and I think that it helped me really appreciate a lot of things. Now it doesn't mean that I'm not, timid about going back into that situation, because
Mm,
I don't think any of us, like you said, are immune to going back into that situation,
mhm,
right? But I think it's also very much a part of the human experience.
mm,
Right.
mm,
Now, I'm not saying that people who have serious issues, that might need to get medicated and all those things to help them. I'm not downplaying or minimizing any of that, but I think it's very normal for all of us to have our ups and downs, and I think that's very important for us to kind of to normalize that it's okay to have those
mhm.
moments, right? And reach out and get some help if you need it.
Absolutely. And I think that the more we embrace that
Hmm.
part of ourselves to where, I mean, I think I was talking to somebody or having a conversation and I mean, I'm think look at the gaps in the years in time where before these things were so much out front and now we are having these public conversations about these things.
Yeah.
So we are definitely willing to engage in it. And now it's just about looking in the mirror and just saying, hey, you know what? I'm okay. It
Mhm.
is cool that I'm dealing with this today. I'm gonna get help. I'm gonna be fine. Having that positive energy, having that support system. So,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, how do you deal with disappointment? So, when I started thinking of this question
Hmm.
um, because I think that I can't remember a time in my adult life except for maybe when you were a kid and you lost the game or you didn't get a good grade and your parents sat you down and you kind of had that pep talk about why bad things happen. But I think as an adult, man, it's harder.
Yeah.
It's harder because ultimately a lot of the decisions or choices that we make are our own. Or when we
Mhm.
want something, we're like, I did the work, see, and I
Yeah.
still didn't get the end result. So, when you find yourselves in those situations, like how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so I think disappointment comes to unmet expectations, right? That's when we're disappointed, whether those are expectations we levied upon ourselves or that we've kind of created through our experiences, or if other people have put on us, and then we've kind of owned them ourselves, right? So
Mhm,
that's where I think disappointment really starts to generate, right? And I think something that I gained along the way was just first acknowledge, right, that you're disappointed. I think some people try to like pretend like they're not. Like they try to be tough and they're like, "Hey, no, no, I'm cool. I'm cool." I was like,
mhm.
"No, you're not."
Yeah, yeah,
No, you're not, right? And I
yeah.
think that we need to give ourselves permission to have our moment. And I tell everybody, like whether it's promotion release day and somebody's real disappointed that they didn't get that line number, I tell them, hey, it's okay to have your moment, right? It's totally cool, and have it here with me. You know what I mean? It's okay. But also just realize that you don't need to be sitting there having a pity party. You can reframe and see it as an opportunity for growth, right? You have the opportunity to reframe this and see it as an opportunity to display character, right? And that's what I do myself. You know, I don't give advice that I don't take in and try to like internalize and figure out how I'm going to do it myself. And that's what I do. A lot of situations come up, you're disappointed, and sometimes it's harder than other times, right? You're really invested into this thing and it just didn't work out. So that's when I think the permission to give yourself that moment, maybe that moment's a little bit longer because that was some serious stuff that disappointed you, right? So that moment's a little bit longer, but don't sit there too long. Right? Just don't get off the X. You got to get off the X eventually. And to me, the way you do that is start reframing what's going on, seeing it as an opportunity for growth, seeing it as an opportunity to show character, seeing it as an opportunity to prove yourself, whatever it might be, but seeing it as an opportunity. And that's really worked out for me throughout the years. And I'll say that I haven't mastered it. There's going to be times where I'm extremely disappointed still, but I'm getting better at it. With experience.
Hey, man, nobody's perfect. It's going to be some that, you know, you take the punches with the best of them, and it might be some that hit you right in the gut.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna need 2 days to recover from this one.
Yep. And shoot, you might need a week, right? But that's where I think confidence come in play too, because sometimes they'll help you get out of that spot. That right, they'll push you off the X.
True story. Yeah. So, you know, speaking of you know, another thing that's like dilemmas or things that are hard, you know, saying no. Okay. Like I found myself kind of perusing around and just thinking of the different things that people deal with or humans deal with on a regular basis, like even if it's a military aspect or whatever. But, you know, why, you know, do you think it's hard for people to say no? And do you find yourself with this one? Like, are you a yes guy? Are you like a, hey man, look, it's great, I have no problem. You know, are you one of those people?
So I'd say that I was traditionally one. I'm a recovering yes man. So I'm a recovering yes man. And I do think that for some people, it's hard to say no. Some people are just wired to be able to say no and they don't care. Right? It's whatever, right? And there's different reasons for that too. Some people just really don't care. You know, they don't care. And some people have matured to the point where they understand what they should care about, right? So there's like different spectrums there. I definitely have that dilemma. I've had it and I'm getting better at it. I think a lot of times what drives that behavior is, and not always, but a lot of times is insecurity and unawareness, right? Insecurity and that you want to please other people, right? Or you got the FOMO, right? Your fear of missing out because you don't want to lose an opportunity that that might never come back again, right? So you have some insecurity there. And then the unawareness piece is sometimes we don't know, we're not tracking our own limitations. So we take on too much, or we're just not organized and we realize that we just double booked ourselves. So, you know, I mean, sometimes it happens too, right?
That happens too. Yeah.
Right. So I think those are some things that with maturity, hopefully you start gaining some perspectives on those things and you're able to say no respectfully, because you know what? I've been told yes by a lot of people that let me down, and we go back up to disappointment because my expectation was that when they say yes and they commit that they're going to follow through. Many a times I've had people commit and they don't follow through. I would have rather had them not commit, say that they're busy, you know, and then I would have respected them more for it. So I think that I keep that in mind as well. I don't want to overcommit myself.
Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes, man, I don't know. People catch you at the right time sometimes. And you just like, you know, that sounds like a great idea. And you're not in front of your calendar. And you go back to your calendar, you're like, oh, shoot, I got like 8 things that day. But you know what? It's ultimately, it's that communication aspect.
Right.
Like, I think somebody told me the other day, instead of saying no, it was saying not right now. Or saying no, not today. And then not giving that emphasis on that negative piece of saying no.
Yeah, I would say though, just make sure you follow up on the not today and maybe but unless you really just ain't gonna do it, then just say no.
That's true. Don't tease, right?
Yeah, don't tease. That'll hurt your the emotional bank account with that person, right?
That's true. That's true.
You'll be taking some withdrawals out. And I'll be 100% transparent with the audience. I did that to you, Dre. Last week we were supposed to be on here, and I figured that we were able to connect while I was on leave. But that was a mistake on my behalf because, my family was like, oh, we're going to do this, this, and this. I'm like, oh, I should have known that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I should have known that. So,
Unsat.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take a -2 on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, he flaked, and
Yeah.
then we're still here though. So
Yeah.
we all good.
Yeah.
I'm a forgiving person, but but no, yeah, I felt like I wanted to ask that because that is definitely something that people have a hard time doing. Transitioning. So what's some quotes that really like lift you up that you want to share with us?
Well, let me just re-engaging with that one thing before. My advice, and it's kind of lies into the quote thing, because somebody else gave me this. I don't have the time to do what you're asking me right now, and to give the effort that you deserve. You know what I mean? Like when you frame it that way, I think that helps people understand. It's like, I want to help you, I want to say yes, but just where I'm at right now, I'm not going to be able to give you that effort that you deserve. And I think that helps.
Framing it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Like I think that people are more. Here's why. People are more understanding. With the framing, like when you actually like number one come from an authentic place, and number two, really like are concerned, like I'm considering it, but I just don't have the time.
Right. Yeah. Right now I don't. I'd love to re-engage again later.
True story.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are quotes?
Quotes. All right. So I got a lot, but I narrowed it down to just a couple.
Top 5?
Yeah. I got 4 on here.
Okay.
One is Marcus Aurelius is somebody I look up to quite a bit. I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy, and one of his quotes that I often go back to, especially when I'm being whiny and sitting in a wet diaper, dealing with something, is, if it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining.
If it's endurable, then endure it and stop complaining.
Yeah.
Okay. And why did that hit you? Why did that hit you?
That hits me because, to me, I think a lot of times, this is something that I bring on to myself, saying yes to a lot of stuff. I like to take on the burden. I like to do a bunch of stuff. I volunteer to help everybody. I love doing that stuff. When I was younger, I would take on all that and then complain about it. Right? I'd be like, why am I the only one doing all this stuff? You know what I mean? That was immature version of Joe Bogdan. I volunteered for all of it, so why am I complaining about it? But now I'm looking around. Now I'm looking at other people not really doing stuff, and I start. So for me, that helps me stay on the track. If there's a cross to bear, I want to bear it. You know what I mean? So I need to live that way, and because I was always doing it to myself anyway. Just stop complaining about it. Stop being a martyr. Stop being a martyr, and just take care of business. So that's a quote that I continuously think about. That keeps me on track.
Okay, give us the second one. What's the second?
Right. Another one is one of my other heroes, Bruce Lee. All right. Don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one.
And what about that one? What about that one hit you?
Something that I think when I started looking at the world through what I consider adult eyes, I realized that taking the harder path is where growth lives, right? And a lot of times we are naturally wired to kind of want to seek comfort. For me, if I want to live to my potential, I need to seek those challenges, right? And even though I've got my last promotion, there's a lot of other challenges and obstacles that I want to conquer in my life, right? In the uniform and outside the uniform. So I'm not worried about taking the easy route, but I do pray for the strength to be able to deal with the hard route. You know what I mean? And I think that's worked out for me quite a bit. And I think when people kind of reframe what they're praying for and what they're asking for in that manner, I think they tend to be able to live to their potential and what the Lord has gifted them with, if they're a believer.
True stories. Whatever path you were meant to be on.
Yeah.
The universe or whatever your faith is.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. All right. What's your third one?
All right, third one is this one's actually one of my own, right? This is one of
Okay.
my own,
You
and
you quoting yourself?
yeah, I'm quoting
Man, that's
myself. This is one
awesome.
that I think is important, right?
Awesome.
And
Go ahead.
it's a reminder for myself, and a lot of times you come up with your own thoughts when you see something or you behave a certain way that you're not proud of, right? For
Mhm.
me, it was I saw myself. This was for me, it was both. I saw somebody doing something, and for me, I also saw that I had the potential of falling into that. Now, this is the quote: "Putting in maximum effort into things that you want to do, that's called normal. Everybody would do that. That's normal. Putting maximum effort into things you don't want to do, that's called character."
Mm.
Mhm.
Putting maximum effort into things that you want to do is
Normal.
sorry, say
It's
again?
normal. It
Is
putting
normal.
yeah, yeah, that's normal. That's called normal. Who doesn't put
Right.
effort into things they want to do?
Yeah, yeah, because you like doing that, and then
Yeah,
putting maximum effort into things you don't want to do.
that's
That's
character.
character.
Hmm.
Mm, a bar. Okay, we definitely go with that. No, that's. I mean, what kind of where did you were you in a moment when you thought about that, or was it just like it was something that you needed to plant the seed in your head?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it spurred from somebody else's action what I saw, and I'll kind of just without naming names, I'll talk about the situation.
Sure.
So I remember seeing somebody when they were teaching a class. They set up their class, and when they set up their classroom for the class they were going to teach, everything was perfect, right? The classroom was set up perfectly. The pens were all symmetrical across the room. Everything was perfect, right? When the same individual was asked to set up another person's class, right, because they weren't able to because they had something appointment or something going on,
Mhm.
they started chucking stuff, throwing stuff,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And I'm
mm,
sitting there watching. I was like, you're capable of doing it the right way,
mhm,
but you only gonna do that for yourself
mm,
and not
mm,
do it for somebody else. And I thought, man, that's a, and I didn't really say much at the moment. I was just kind of reflecting on that. I was like, that's a sign of character
mm.
to me. You know what I mean? And then and then I thought, man, have I ever done that? I guarantee I have. You know what I mean? I'll just be honest. I have.
Yeah.
So it's a reminder for me. That's why I said it's both. It's something I've seen and also something I guarantee I've done before too. It helps me remember to put that effort into the things. If I don't feel like doing it, it tells me you got to go harder on it.
Yep. It's you'll sit there with all the salt in your mouth about
Yeah.
it, but just be like,
Yeah.
but just be like, it just it is character. I do agree with that because it's not yours, but you still wouldn't put that same energy and focus
Mhm.
and perfection as if it were
Yeah.
yours,
Yeah,
right?
and that translates to, let's say it's all of it's yours, but okay, you want to do these things because you like doing that. You love spending time mentoring airmen, but you don't like working on these 1206s or EPRs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it don't matter if you like it. You got to put the
Mm-hmm.
same effort into that. You know what I mean? You put in full effort in your mock PT test. Probably not because you don't like to do it. But if you did, you know what I mean? It's an opportunity to display character in that moment, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those are things that that's what it kind of translates to all things for me.
Okay, I dig that.
Yeah.
So, what is this is four now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The fourth one's coming up, and this is just the last one. And I don't know who actually quoted, but I've taken it on as my mantra: is better has no finish line. That is that is my mantra that I live by. You'll see it on hashtags on my Facebook posts and all that because to me, better has no finish line. You're always seeking to be better. You know, you're not looking for the finish line, the goal. It's the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's always about getting better, growing, and so better has no finish line. That's my mantra.
Better has no. Wow. I'm just, man, look, if nobody's getting all this information, all these quotes, man, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Okay. Better has no finish line. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm definitely, when we finish this, I'm going to edit the post and add all these quotes. We can share it with the masses when they rewatch this.
Awesome.
So I asked, let me see. Nope. We're not at that question yet.
Mhm.
So feedback, hard to give or receive? Or both?
I say both. Definitely, depending on situation, depending on the people, right? I think that it's difficult no matter what if there is no foundation of trust between the parties. So we teach a lot of times about how to do, meaning this is how you give feedback. This is what you do. We even practice it and that stuff through PME and other types of development opportunities. And I think we do a good job of teaching people how to, but we don't spend enough time, I think, in my opinion, teaching people how to build the rapport ahead of time, build that trust, show people that you're actually invested in them. That way, when the feedback does come, especially if you're calling the baby ugly, they know that it's coming from a place of love, of care.
Mm.
Right. Instead, we tell people you got to give them that feedback. You got to give them that feedback. You got to give them that feedback. Right.
Yeah.
So some people just honestly they suck at it. But you know what? When you make mistakes with but the person that you make that mistake with knows that your intent's in the right place, your heart's in the right place, they're a lot more forgiving.
Yeah.
Right. They're a lot more forgiving and more accepting of those things. It still doesn't make it 100% easy. But I think that's real important. And I just listened to a sermon that my buddy Scott Green sent to me, and I thought he had a great quote. The pastor said, "Pastors love to preach, but they don't always love the pastor."
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
And he was like, and then he admitted himself, "I don't always like to pastor because I got to tell people that you're doing something wrong."
Mm. Mm.
It's easy to get up here and tell you what the right things to do are, but to actually have that one-on-one engagement with somebody and tell them, "Hey, you're wrong, and
Mm.
this is why."
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
It is difficult, but I think that for that to be received and also for you to be able to deliver it effectively, I think there's got to be a foundation of trust and there's got to be some maturity there.
Mm. Mm.
And unfortunately, usually one of those is missing.
Right, right, right,
Right.
right.
One of
Trust
those
and
is missing.
maturity
Mhm.
because of the relationship you have somebody. Like you can, I definitely think it's fostered on relationship too.
Mhm,
You know
mhm.
what I'm saying? Because, just am I going to give feedback to a stranger? Like, no, but if it's
Right.
somebody I trust or somebody that trusts me or somebody that I feel that comfortable giving that to, then
Mhm.
it's definitely going to be a different energy to it. But
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
definitely agree. It's harder to receive feedback. It's harder to give it, especially when it's not the happy one. Normally
Right.
it's harder actually, and even taking it a step further, I think it's hard to receive. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to say that because sometimes people can't take the compliments either.
Yeah. Some
Sometimes,
people feel real uncomfortable.
sometimes positive feedback is uncomfortable too. So yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
it really depends on who you are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like if you don't trust your supervisor, let's just say it's your supervisor that's giving you constructive feedback and you don't trust them, are you going to receive it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And vice versa, right?
Yeah.
It's very important. So those are things that I think that we need to work on and continuing to grow with our people and realize that that is important. They call it soft skills, but I'm like, it's not soft skills, it's skills.
Mm,
You know
mm.
what I mean?
Yep, that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. So moving on from that, so I always ask people this or ask my guests this
Mhm.
because with the mental health and with obviously some of the suicides dealing with like some people may feel like they don't have a purpose. And
Mm.
so I ask my guests, like, what is your inspiration to keep living every day?
Yeah. Yeah. So to me, living the meaning that God's instilled in me, and I said it a little bit earlier, is my calling is to teach and is to influence and help grow people, to cultivate others in any way I can, and that requires me to continuously grow so that I can do that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, I think just my relationship with God, my relationship with my significant other, and the rest of my loved ones. Those are all things that help me, that inspire me to continue going on, right? And I think because of that, and the blessings that I have of finding that meaning and be able to live it every day in uniform, out of uniform. I get to be an adjunct professor on my off duty time, so I'm a teacher doing that too. Um, I think that really helps me stay aligned. Now, it doesn't prevent what I've learned, like I talked about earlier, it doesn't prevent you from going into those valleys,
Mm-hmm.
but it helps you see the light at the end of the tunnel, in my opinion.
Mm,
Right.
mm, mm,
Right.
mm, mm. Okay. So, your faith, your family, and then
Hmm.
of course what you do on your off time or
Yeah.
whatever. Like things
Hmm.
that feed that positive energy that you need to stay
Yeah.
keep going, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Just one second because my iPad wants to act up right now. So but this is live. So you know what I'm saying? We take with the good with the bad. audiobook recommendations or YouTube or podcast or anything. What you got for us?
Okay, the last book
Wait. Let me tell you the first one. Llama Lounge.
Definitely the Llama Lounge. Yeah, definitely the Llama Lounge. Yeah, definitely Llama Lounge. Yeah. Books. The last one I listened to was The Comfort Crisis that came up recently. Came out not too long ago by an author named Michael Easter. And it really talks about how being too comfortable in situations, that causes mental health issues, physical issues, and everything else. Like putting yourself outside of those comfort zones, whether that's physically, mentally, and all those things. We're meant to be in those situations. I will say, I'll put a warning out there. I'm not saying do everything he says in the book. Please don't do. But if you do listen to, I'll just say that, hey, ease into some of the things he's talking about. But I do find a lot of value in that book. Winning the War in Your Mind. That's a great book, in my opinion. I listened to that, and it has some biblical backgrounds to it. But even if you're secular, I think you'll get a lot out of it for the secular audience. But written by a pastor, and just has a great perspectives on how to kind of win that war that we all have in our mind. We have that Michael Singer, he calls it the nasty roommate, that roommate that's in your mind. Sometimes that roommate, you just got to turn that roommate down a little bit every now and then. The one that's always telling you can't do it or whatever else, right? So that's a great book. And then anything Ryan Holiday writes, I love. He is an amazing author. My number one favorite book ever is The Obstacle is the Way. Written by Ryan Holiday, and that's the first in his series of 3. The next one's called Ego is the Enemy, and the third one's called Stillness is the Key. And all those books have great perspectives, and I think anybody can get something out of that. Great.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah. So self-care. So
yeah. So those are books. So besides Llama Lounge, Trip Bodenheimer and Caleb Pearson have this great podcast called The Shadows Podcast that you can hear a lot of people's amazing stories. Highly recommend that. Josh White, Hero Front, doing some great things over there. And
shout out to Josh.
Yeah, shout out to Josh. And Beyond the Rut with Jerry Dugan. He's an Army vet, and he kind of got the Llama Lounge into the podcast game because we were on his podcast. And it tells people how you can get out of life's ruts. So those are great. And the other ones that are staples in my rotation is the Daily Stoic, Tim Ferriss, and Joe Rogan for some entertainment and education.
I've been hearing a lot about the Daily Stoic. I imagine with those two, or at least with Joe Rogan on, it's got to be some comedy on it, right?
Yeah. So Joe Rogan's awesome. Daily Stoic, I would say, is great for everybody because it'll have the 1 hour or more discussions on the weekends, but on the weekdays he'll have like 3-4 minute snippets. So you can kind of listen to it, get some wisdom from the Stoics, from thousands of years ago. Tim Ferriss, I'll say his podcasts, I love a lot of podcasts, but I'll say I don't listen to every single episode of his, but the ones I do, I felt like they changed my DNA. What I mean by that, sometimes when you hear or read something at the right time, if it's great, it's great. But if it also is great and hits you at the right time, it could change things in you. And I think Tim Ferriss had a couple episodes that really changed things in me. And I think that there's a lot of value there,
Awesome. So you gave us some audiobooks, you gave us some podcasts, man. We got so many different things. I cannot wait to definitely post it and then maybe add some for myself, see what's going on. The Daily Stoic sounds really cool.
Yeah.
So self-care, do you practice this? Do you think that's is that a good routine for you?
Yeah. I think it's part of the main dish. And what I say about the main dish, I always use this analogy of our plate. You got your main dish, you got your prime rib, whatever you decide to eat. Sorry for the vegans out there, you got your prime rib, you got your side items. And then a lot of people look at developing others as like maybe your side salad that you get to, right? Whatever. And then if you got time, you get your dessert, which is your self-care. Well, I think that's a wrong way to look at it. If you're full, then you're not going to do it. Self-care has got to be your appetizer. It's got to be the first thing you do to take care of your meal. Then you get into that main dish and do all those things, which is compose a mission and taking care of others and all that stuff. So I think for me, it took a minute. Like I will say that, when I talked about finally seeing the world through adult eyes, it took that before I realized I got to take care of myself. And it took me going into that valley, like I talked about, of getting out of shape, being burnt out and all that, to realize, no, that's not happening again. I need to take care of myself holistically. So I run a lot. My routine in the morning is I wake up. I talk to my girl. We connect in the morning. She's stationed in Korea, so that's about 4 a.m. for me. So I wake up, and then before she goes to bed, we talk. After that, I read scripture, read some inspirational reading. Also, on top of that, maybe some daily readers like the Daily Stoic, some other daily readers, and then I go for a run. Or I do some resistance band kettlebell workouts in the morning, get myself good to go, and then I go to work and take care of business. Come home. Also, I do intermittent fasting. Okay, some people call it time restricted eating. Some people say so. Basically, I don't eat until noon, and I stop taking calories in at 8 p.m. So I have a 16-hour fast where, and I do that, and I do that for one, discipline, other things because the health benefits that I've gotten from it, and it keeps me healthy. So I do that. I eat lunch about noon, light lunch, some salad, something like that, and then I finish up the day. Go home, take care of business, whether that's teaching or whatever, school, learning, and all that stuff. But all that self-care, I think, has to be throughout the day. I think that a lot of times what we do is we throw it at the beginning, at the end, we bookmark, we bookend it. And then what happens when you just bookend it, you miss one, and now that becomes a habit. Right. So to me, you got to keep doing it throughout. Prayer is a big part of my life. Those are things that I are habitual. And a shout out to Tim Ferguson, who sent me this gratitude journal that I am habitual. This thing has been a habit. Tim, I've written in this every day since you gave it to me while I was deployed. Every day.
All right now.
Yeah. So
shout out to Tim Ferguson for making you or at least giving you the opportunity to learn to appreciate things. Is that what that is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good reminder to make me feel disciplined in doing it. I've always known that there was value there, and it's very important, but to actually sit there and write it now, I don't want to miss a day, because I don't want to be like, oh man, broke the streak. So I take the time to express what I'm grateful for in my journal. So those are things I do. I know it sounds trite, but I do it, and it works.
No, speak your truth, because honestly, I can relate to some of those things. I mean, my routine is I do meditation 2 to 3 times a day. I journal, I write poetry. I exercise at dark 30 in the morning, and just get that good juice in my veins. And then I might do some YouTube sleep meditation at night, and burn some sage, and really just have some positive vibes only. So we all have those things that keep us grounded.
Yeah, and you talked about some hobbies in there, right? Like the poetry and stuff. I think, you might consider a hobby, you might consider it self-care. I think it's the same, I think hobbies and things are part of self-care. I think that's real important, that we seek out things that continuously inspire us. Because it's real easy to get in a rut. And for me, it's photography, hiking, traveling, seeing nature. Those things inspire me. Or reading some inspirational stuff. Those things inspire me, because I feel like if I'm not inspired in my life, that I'm not going to be as inspired at work. And then what's that going to do is, I think we've all worked for an uninspired leader before. It's not the best experience.
No, it's not. And you know what? And the thing to say that it can't translate, that you could separate the person from the job, is just not feasible. You know what I mean? So it's it's like they have to marry each other, where it's something you do versus not something that you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel that. So shout out to self-care, folks, man. Y'all gonna hear me talk about this until you nauseous and sick of it, but I'm telling you, like, we do the things that we talk about, like taking a knee, take leave, taking a lunch, leaving the building, taking a walk around, like, just getting some fresh air, like just not working ourselves into like oblivion. I'm telling you, this job is going to be there. It's always going to be there. We just have to, our sanity, our human composition, we got to take care of that.
Yeah. And if you're a leader, make sure you show people you're doing that too, especially your hard chargers, because if they want to be like you, they're going to burn themselves out just like you if you do it.
True story. If they see Chief, man, Chief's here till like 8. 9, 10 at night.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And they're like, man, like, are we doing something wrong? You
Yeah.
know, or you know what, Chief, make sure we're good. And then he leaves
Yeah.
as soon as the opportunity is, because he knows that he needs that separation.
Yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
learned that too. Trust me. I was always the person that was like, okay, well, my subordinates are here. Do I need to still be here? Like, and
Yeah.
I'll just wait versus like, okay, I checked on everybody. Everybody's good. Y'all don't stay too late. And I will go take care of what I need to take care of.
For sure.
So very vulnerable. People that inspire you or mentors.
Man, I have so many. It's real hard to nail down. A lot of the people that inspire me that I consider mentors, they would never claim they're my mentor. You know what I mean? There are people that like, I don't know why you're calling me, your mentor, but the reason why is because they set examples, right? And in different ways. And I'll just stick to one right now
Sure,
because
that's fine.
this person I consider like a mom, Jay Hurt. She's worked at the Airman Family Readiness Center when I worked there, and she taught me generosity, empathy, care, and patience. And she didn't teach it to me out of a handbook. She taught it to me by showing me every day. And I
Mm.
think that that's the person that I would shout out to as my number one like mentor type inspiration type thing, is because I think that's a part that was missing in my game.
Yeah,
And
sure,
she showed it to me every day, you know.
sure,
So
sure.
mhm.
No, it's like I said, we have, the laundry list of people and mentors and the
Mhm.
ability to influence. It's
Yeah.
just so many. But man,
Mhm.
like there are definitely some people that stick out in your life. And
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, even to this day, I have people that I quote every day or quote
Yeah.
to my airmen or quote to
Yeah.
whoever, and just like, man, like imagine the things that people say or that you say to people that
Mhm.
stick with them like that. It's
Right.
so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say to your younger self? What would you say to young Joe if young Joe was in this room right now and knowing what you know now?
Hmm. It's pretty simple. It would say it'll all be worth it. I would tell younger me that it'll all be worth it. All the stuff you're going through, the struggles you're going through, the family issues you're going through when you're a kid, the poverty you grew up in, the struggles with the hard people you had to deal with, all those things, it's all going to be worth it. You
Mm,
know,
mm,
you're going to gain from it. You're going to grow from it. You're going to be in a place where you can utilize the lessons you learn to help others, and you're going to be okay. you know,
mm,
it's gonna
mm.
all be worth it, man. That's what I would tell
No, no, that's awesome because you know what? I think self awareness and self reflection is important, like
them.
because then that gives you an idea of where you thought you were going to be
Hmm.
versus where you actually are now.
Yeah,
And it kind of gives you that, gratitude, that appreciation that it's like, man,
yeah,
there were literally moments where I thought that things were going to go one way and it went the other
hmm,
way.
yeah,
And then, by the way, here I am now, and
yeah,
X amount of years or however long, and it's
yeah,
showing appreciation
yeah,
where you're at.
yeah.
So last thing. Um, so I allow my guests to
Mhm.
give our 39,000 membership. No pressure. Okay.
Yeah,
Just some words of motivation or reasons to push. I mean, look,
yeah.
it's um I don't know. I mean, I just like perspective, and if there's anything you want to say to our membership, what would that be?
I would say leadership begins and ends with self mastery, and we should always remember that. Uh, it takes a deep look into yourself, so we must keep growing and stay inspired. Find ways to get inspired. You might not be an artist, but you need to find some inspiration, right? Constantly find inspiration so that you can grow, so that you can fuel up other people, right? And I think that's real important. So it begins with self mastery, learning those emotional intelligence skills, doing all those things to really look into yourself and grow yourself. That's very important. So the most effective leaders are never done growing, right? So
Mm,
so keep seeking ways. And I'm not saying you got to go, off duty education type stuff. If you do, cool. But there's a lot of other opportunities for you to grow nowadays. There are so many ways to keep seeking those ways to grow. Do things that are difficult that you know you're going to suck at and grow. I mean, that's
mm,
the time to grow. And then with that, give yourself permission to try, give yourself permission to fail, and give yourself permission to try again. And at
mm,
the end of all that, give yourself grace.
mm, mm.
Yeah, give yourself some grace. you know.
All right now. Okay. Well, Joe, we appreciate that. I have my little piece too. Normally I have my little wrap up or different things that I say to the people, but I do want to thank Joe for coming on. And again, like Apple Speaks, such a platform that really is not necessarily about the recognition of the popularity, but it is about the messages and the perspectives and the different discussions that we have, and that every person that comes on here, I believe, is intended for a purpose, whether it's their purpose, whether it's a purpose for other people that are watching this. But either way, we all have an influence and we all have a mark that we can make in our lives, on society, whatever the case is. But ultimately, it's just, embracing where you are today. If you're not in a good place, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling happy, embrace that, and don't stay there. As Joe said, don't stay there. Because we got your back. Okay. Air Force Wingman Outreach at gmail.com. We got your back. I do want to thank Joe for coming on, man. This has been great. I have learned so much from this. Even if people don't understand, every time I do this, like, I'm just literally in awe of my guests and the people that come on, because it's just, I only known Joe from the YouTube videos and then the quarantine. Man, I don't even, I got to come up with a name for it, but either way, it was like the quarantine marathon or whatever you want to call it. But either way, you, sir, are also an inspirational individual, inspiring people from afar and the things that you do. So we appreciate that. I appreciate that. But yes, thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving our viewers some really good information.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and we'll stay connected and love to do it again sometime.
No doubt, no doubt. Air Force Women Outreach at gmail.com. This will be on YouTube. This will also be here on the Facebook Live at the top of the page. By all means, please get to the parts that you want, but I would definitely wrap it up, customize it, put his quotes down there, put his audiobook recommendations down there, put the Llama Lounge link in there, where to find that, so y'all can definitely continue to stay connected to Joe. And with that being said, have a good Wednesday. Apple Speaks, we're going to be back on tomorrow with Corey Carpenter from a mental health provider. So by all means, please stay tuned for that. With that, we are out.
All right.